How about World War III underway? Quite possibly. Either
Do you think there is a lot of chances of that we go to World War III?
I think in a way we may be in the early stages of it. Not all the wars have been declared, but we've got war in the Western Hemisphere, war in Ukraine, war in Iran and the Middle East. We have Pakistan and Afghanistan at war. And these are all somehow related. The intelligence services are all part of this twisted enterprise. So it's a pretty pervasive phenomenon. The United States is central to all of it. I think the main cause of these wars. And basically, these are wars of U.S. hegemony, U.S. Trying to prove not only that it's number one, but it's one and only in Trump's mind. He can choose the leader of any country. He can say, I will choose Iran's supreme leader. He just posted a moment ago that if Iran doesn't unconditionally surrender, Iran will be destroyed. This is a grandiosity and megalomania that we've not seen since Hitler, actually. So it's a very dramatic time. Of course, the weird part is much of Europe stands up and cheers or says, we'll join that, which is not exactly the healthiest response to this madness. And that's why wars go to bigger and bigger wars, because how many European countries want to come jump in right now? It's amazing.
We are going to talk about the European Union because I'm a member of the European Parliament, but I want to ask first, what do you think is the underlying motive for the United States and Israel that they are doing this?
Yeah, Israel's underlying motive is regional hegemony. Israel wants dominance across the broader Middle East. There are two parts to that. One is a vision, a crazy one, which says that Israel has God's right to the land from the Nile to the Euphrates, something that the U.S. ambassador to Israel said explicitly just a few days ago. And nobody contradicted him in the United States or Europe. No one said, that's a little weird, Mr. Huckabee. They just went along with that. So that's one part, Israel's grandiosity in that way. And another part is the...
hegemony, you mean to control the region?
Exactly.
To not have any opposition, to do whatever they want, and to have control over the region. Okay.
Absolutely. And Israel already stated under Netanyahu 30 years ago this year a doctrine in writing called clean break, which said there'll never be a Palestinian land, believe me, period. Israel has sovereignty from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean, period. And anyone that objects, anyone that supports the Palestinian cause, we're going to take out. We're going to overthrow. So it's a hegemony that is an active war policy. Israel has either overtly or covertly through Mossad engaged in wars that stretch from Libya to Iran and that include Libya, Sudan, Somalia, Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Yemen, and now Iran. And Netanyahu also, another megalomaniac, wrote a few days ago that the war on Iran fulfills my 40-year dream. Well, this is very important for people to understand, because the claim was, well, Iran didn't negotiate right last week, or it's about this, or it's about that. No, this is a 40-year dream of Netanyahu. It is. By the way, it's an 80-year dream of the CIA. Not specifically the war, I can't say 80 years, it's 78 years since the CIA was formed, but it's 80 years since the end of World War II, little more than 80 years. We're going on the 81st year now. But the idea at the end of World War II, after Roosevelt died, was that the U.S. would reign supreme in the world. That the U.S. had replaced the British Empire. It was now going to be the new global empire. And so what we're witnessing is something that has been underway and plays out in a deep way over decades, but it also involves individual personalities. Trump is a completely mentally unhinged person. Netanyahu is as well. And so you have two megalomaniacs running two war machines that have been in partnership for decades, that have had a strategic view, but now you have two leaders who are going for broke. They're going to just assert full power right now. Israel over the Middle East, the United States over the world, and that's just the way it's going to be. So that's what's going on right now.
I want to push a bit back about Israel. This is not my position, but
Sure.
just for the sake of the conversation.
Yeah.
When a country is becoming more powerful and there is growing, it's logical in the world that you are seeking more and more power. So this is in a way how the world works. So Israel is just acting and working according to how the world works. So what is your answer to this?
Israel is the most violent country per capita in the whole world because it doesn't declare any borders. The borders will expand when we want, where we want. Now Israel has invaded Lebanon. It's displacing these hours hundreds of thousands of people. Can you imagine? It's telling people in Beirut, you must leave in the next 3 hours. This is a crazy country. I'm sorry. I've been watching this country closely. I've been visiting that country for the past 54 years. There's nothing like it on the planet. They don't accept borders. What are Israel's borders? Ask Netanyahu. He won't know. Ask Huckabee. Well, anything they want. Of course, between the Nile and the Euphrates. This is the only country that takes a scriptural book from the 5th or 6th century BC and says, well, that's our deed. By the way, that's not even the theology of the Bible. The prophets are very clear. You mess up, you lose everything. So it's completely different from what they think, that it's as if they have a deed inscribed somewhere in heaven that they own all this land. The behavior is repulsive. It's not normal. It's not normal that you develop and you say, therefore I go to war with my neighbors. It's not normal to come to the United States in the fall of 2002, as Netanyahu did, to tell the American people, oh, you got to invade Iraq. It'll be the greatest thing ever. It'll be so inspiring. It'll get the young people of Iran to rise up. Remember, Iran is his 40-year dream. So this guy's been warmongering for decades. That's not normal. I work with probably more than 100 governments in the world, off and on around the world. I don't know of another country that behaves like Israel.
Okay, about United States, why United States? What's the benefit for United States getting dragged into this war?
None. It's a disaster. But the CIA didn't ask me. The CIA didn't ask the American people. The American people are pretty clever. About 75% of the American people are against this war, and about 25% are in favor. So no one in the United States thinks this is a great thing, but nobody asks us. Not our politicians, not either party, by the way. It's not Democrats or Republicans, because it's been many decades that the U.S. has been run by its military-industrial complex, not by anything remotely resembling the Constitution of the United States. Even our congressmen, they don't even remember the Constitution. If they're asked, do you want to be responsible for this war? Like Article 1 of our Constitution says, that only Congress has the right to declare war. No, don't make us responsible. Give that to the CIA. We don't want that. So that's how they behave. And that's what they just did a couple of days ago. We don't want the War Powers Act. The War Powers Act is not some outlandish idea. It's actually the implementation of Article 1 of the Constitution. They don't want that responsibility. They want the money from the military-industrial complex that pays for their campaigns. They don't want to say no. They certainly don't want to say no to an Israel-led war. Almost all of them, one way or another, are either paid by the Israel lobby or are terrified of the Israel lobby, one of the two things. So they don't want any responsibility.
So terrified, what do you mean by terrified?
I think terrified in one very obvious sense, which is that the Israel lobby will try to defeat them. That's the normal terrified. There's also the Epstein file terrified. We don't know all of that, but it's pretty clear that that's another bit of terrification, if I could put it that way. There's a lot of compromat on our politicians. There's a lot of blackmail on our politicians. In case anyone's curious, Epstein was killed. He was suicided, let's put it that way. And so there are people who know that, and they're a little scared too. So everyone's a little bit scared. Everyone is, some are just on the take. They've been championing these wars going back for decades. So they made a lot of hay out of this. They get huge campaign contributions. They get military contracting in their district. They get full paid, glorious tours of Israel where they're championed in Israel and so forth. So it's a mix of inducements and fear. But when you look at the State of the Union address of Trump a few days ago, basically, the Republicans stood up and cheered every word, and the Democrats sat on their hands, except when it came to Iran and Israel. And then both chambers stood up, both sides, unanimous, wild applause for insanity. So it's a system. It's a system.
The Israel lobby and the military lobby is too strong to resist for politicians to say no. So that's why we see what we see. But what do you think this will be the effect for people? Because people are actually, maybe in the first day it was a bit of surprise, and maybe in the media the narrative was different. But after people listen to you and other sources that are going viral, I think the public opinion and globally is shifting. So what will be the result now that a lot of people are opposed to this in the United States?
In America, it's not that people are listening to me, it's that they go to the gas pump and the price of gas is going up and they're saying, what is going on?
Maybe.
And gasoline prices are soaring. And wait to what's going to happen in Europe, because it's going to be a lot worse in Europe. Europe is absolutely in the bullseye of this. All those politicians in Europe that want to stand up and cheer Donald Trump, they're going to explain your electricity prices are about to soar again. Your gasoline prices, your diesel prices, they're all about to soar again, because we're entering into a massive energy crisis because of this war, if it continues. And so this is what the people are feeling. They knew it already. By the way,
wars. Can you explain why are we entering into this?
Yeah. Sure. Just one point is war itself is pretty expensive. Every time those interceptors are shot up to take down a drone, that's $2 million. This is unbelievable how they're burning through billions right now, billions of euros within the first few days of this fighting, and this is going to go on for a long time if Donald Trump has his way and if his European buddies and vassals stand up and cheer him. This is going to go on a long time. So the amount of money being burned will be $100 billion, hundreds of billions of dollars. It all depends. That's the direct outlays. And that's on top of trillions and trillions of dollars that have been spent in Israel's wars. Again, it's not that Israel is the tail wagging the dog. It's rather that the dog and the tail get along right now. The tail is the local hegemon or the regional hegemon, and the dog wants the world. And so they are in partnership on this. But this has been trillions of dollars for nothing except destruction. We could come back to that, but if people are curious, there's something called the Watson Institute at Brown University. You can find it online. They show you the trillions and just how much waste there's been, the loss of lives, the physical destruction, and so on. So the second point, though, is the energy. And I think everybody understands.
And if you can speak also about the energy of Europe.
Well, Europe is an energy importing region. And Europe is you have politicians like van der Leyen and Merz and others who are, let me say, economically suicidal for Europe. They're systematically destroying the European economy. I think they know it, by the way. They don't say it exactly that way, but van der Leyen will go down in history as the one that did the most damage of any European leader, probably in the history of the European Union, of self-destruction. The European economy not only came to a standstill, it just falls farther and farther behind the United States and China across the whole industrial spectrum, because it's all war and energy shocks and self-denial. So basically, Europe is a fossil fuel importing region, and it had a source of low-cost natural gas from Russia that was a mainstay of the European economy. The United States hated that, by the way, because the United States, Europe's great ally, is nothing of the sort. Sorry to break the news, but the United States has never been interested in Europe's economic well-being. The United States is interested in European dominance. Okay, I'm sorry to be impolite, but this is just the facts of life. So when Europe and Russia made the physical connections of the pipelines, the U.S. absolutely went mad. Nord Stream, are you kidding? This isn't just that it was blown up a few years ago. This was targeted by the United States for 2 decades, threatening Germany. How dare you take low-cost natural gas from Russia? Well, once upon a time, there were actually German chancellors that represented Germany. That hasn't happened in the last 2 chancellors, Scholz and Merz. But before that, there was Kohl, there was Merkel, there was Schroeder before that. They understood that economically, a connection between Germany and Russia was, hey, mutually beneficial. That's how trade works. And then the U.S. and Europe, with its 20th round of sanctions, which is 20 rounds of economic self-destruction of Europe, cut itself off from from low-cost Russian gas, which was the bulwark of the German industry. And German industry also is Austrian industry, it's Slovak industry, it's Hungary's industry, it's Slovenia's industry, it's Czech Republic's industry, it's Poland's industry. In other words, it's the industrial heart of Europe that then radiates as other suppliers provide components to this German industry. Well, that's basically dead right now. It's dying. The only thing alive in German industry are investments in China, which is fine, but it would be nice if German industry in Germany were still functioning, but it isn't, because in this craziness that we have, Europe signed up to 20 rounds of self-denial, and the United States said, that's fine, we'll provide you liquefied natural gas at 6 times the cost. That'll be wonderful. Okay, so that's part of the U.S. Ploy all along. Europe is incredibly gullible on this. The United States does not want Europe to develop. It really doesn't. It doesn't want European champions in artificial intelligence. It doesn't want European champions in electric vehicles. It doesn't want European champions in robotics. It doesn't want European champions, period. Any good European company, it wants to take for itself, like the Dutch company ASML, which is the world's best producer of advanced microchips. It's basically a U.S. company because the U.S. bosses the company around. European Union doesn't say, we decide who we sell to. No, we let the United States decide because they love us. They have us in they have us in their dreams. So this is the starting point. Now comes the next crisis. This is an even bigger energy crisis than the cutoff of Nord Stream. This one involves the center of world hydrocarbons, which of course is West Asia. It is the Persian Gulf region. It's Iran, Iraq, all the GCC, the Gulf Cooperation Council states that are being bombed these days, Bahrain, United Arab Emirates, the Saudis, and so forth. So that's a huge amount of the world's energy supply. And I think everyone has heard 100 times in the last week that roughly 20% of the world's hydrocarbons flow through this narrow passageway called the Strait of Hormuz, which is basically under the effective shelling of Iran. So the traffic of both petroleum and natural gas has stopped out of the Persian Gulf region. And that's a lot. So we see oil and natural gas prices soaring right now. But we're not anywhere close to the limit of that. Of course, the next weeks will depend on what happens in the air and in the battlefield. But if the war continues, as looks likely, oil prices will surely rise well above $100 a barrel, well above 100 euros a barrel. Natural gas prices will continue to soar. And the effects of this on the population living standards in Europe will be very, very tough for two reasons. One, the out-of-pocket outlays will soar for diesel, for the car, or for electricity, which is absolutely going to spike yet again, as it has in the past few years. And second, there's going to be a lot of closure of industry. So a lot of companies will close down because they're no longer profitable at these high energy costs. So that will either force directly concessions on wages or layoffs. We've been through this before. We had oil shocks in the past, especially most dramatically in the 1970s, both in 1973-74 at the time of the Israel War, the so-called Yom Kippur War with Egypt and other Arab countries, and then again in 1979-80 around the upheavals in Iran. So we've been through that. I actually know something about it. Not only am I that old, but I wrote my PhD dissertation in 1980 on these oil shocks, on how to analyze them, how to study them in an economic model, why they have such adverse effects. And I published a book in 1982 called The Economics of Worldwide Stagflation, which was one of the results of that research. So I've studied this for more than 45 years, and I can tell you, if this war continues this way, if Donald Trump in his delusional reveries says unconditional surrender, I choose the next supreme leader, and so on, and the war continues, as it is likely to do, the economic consequences in Europe and in the world in the next 12 months will be extraordinarily stark.
In the next 12 months, do you think, or it will be longer?
No, I'm saying that during the next, it won't wait for a year or two or three. During this coming year, I mean, this will really, really, really hurt.
Meaning, what means really, really, really hurt?
Of course, again, it depends on the battlefield, but if the Straits of Hormuz are closed for the next few weeks, which is definitely a real possibility, not only will oil and gas prices soar, but production of oil and gas throughout the Middle East will stop. This is already happening for two reasons. One, if you can't pump what you're producing, you can't produce more, so you have to shut down the fields. And second, Iran has been hitting the physical infrastructure of the energy sector, and that means that refineries and production sites and port facilities have been blasted in the last few days. So both of these factors, in addition to the shipping lane in the Strait of Hormuz being closed, means that we could see oil prices $125, $150 a barrel, comparable increases in the price of natural gas. And
so that will mean another economic crisis for the world, right?
Yes, and for Europe on top of an ongoing economic crisis.
Okay, I want to hear your estimations about these wars that are happening in Iran and in Ukraine. What does it mean now that we have two battlefields? But first, I want to hear your response of how do you assess the response that Europe had to this war in Iran?
Weird. I don't know if European leaders can say anything truthful anymore. You never hear it. You never hear a straightforward statement from Merz or Macron or Starmer. Europe doesn't need to own Starmer, but from Rutte. Well, there's one European leader who's been brilliant, Pedro Sanchez. Brilliant. You know why? He's speaking the truth. And when Trump threatens him, he says, don't threaten me. I'm going to tell the truth. So one leader has stood up and shown how it can be done. But the rest, oh my God, you can't even imagine how absurd these people are. And I watched it last Sunday at the UN Security Council.
Yes, please tell us your experience and explain to the people, because there is some clips that are going viral about this.
Yeah. So it was a sad day for the UN, and a sad day for the world, and a sad day for Europe, and a sad day for Israel, and a sad day for the United States. All of it, and of course a tragic day for Iran. This was the emergency UN Security Council session that came just after Israel and the United States attacked Iran. So I got a call early in the day. A number of delegations asked me to testify about the consequences, the way out, what the Security Council might do, partly because I had sent a letter to all of the UN Security Council members on February 16th to say that we're at the verge of the collapse of the UN Security Council because the United States is ripping up the UN Charter. So I sent a letter then. Following that, a number of delegations wanted to hear me. Well, Britain was in the chair, and the British said, no, we don't want to hear Mr. Sachs. And the Americans, no doubt, did somersaults to prevent Mr. Sachs from speaking, if I could guess what they were saying about me. But in any event, I went and sat through the session, having had the invitation revoked in that way by the US and UK, but I went to meet and listen. And it was really a ghastly affair, because every European country, starting with France, including Britain, including Denmark, including Greece, they all landed on Iran for having the bad manners to be bombed by the US and Israel. So they all said, Iran, what an evil country, what a terrible country. It has to show restraint. It has to stop its response, which, by the way, under the UN Charter is allowed under Article 51. It's called self-defense. If you're attacked, you can strike back, but not in the European eyes that day. So each European country, I think maybe literally, although I don't want to say that I'm absolutely being precise for every European speaker, but I'm being close and pretty accurate in spirit, none of them mentioned that Iran was bombed. That's the point. None of them said, oh, the US and Israel bombed Iran, which I thought was a salient point for that day. You have two countries led by megalomaniacs out to destroy another country. You might think the UN Security Council members would take note of that, but not the Europeans. The Europeans wanted to show that they're good vassal states of the US, and so they all came down on Iran. And it was really surrealistic, even to the point of saying, well, the U.S. and Israel bombed Iran, but you have to understand Iran was a bad actor. They don't even reach that level of normalcy. So they just start with Iran is bombing the Gulf countries. The country of Bahrain, which is a little protectorate of the United States, where the U.S. naval base is in the region, opened up by saying, we've been attacked in an unprovoked attack by Iran. Come on, at least say we've been attacked by Iran after Iran was attacked by the U.S. and Israel, and maybe it's not fair that they attacked us, or maybe saying we're unlucky because the U.S. and Israel let loose murderous firepower, and Iran responded by attacking the U.S. naval base, and that hurts us. Okay, that would be grown up, intelligent, rational, honest. But that's not what was said. What was said was, Iran attacked us in an unprovoked way. So you just sit there and you say, George Orwell, you're being outdone. You guided us to how this works, but honestly, they're going beyond what you could have imagined.
So why do you think this is happening? Because everyone is afraid of the United States, and why they respond like this?
I don't know. There's nothing to be afraid of, by the way. This is a bully. Pedro Sanchez said, no. What's going to happen? Really? The United States is going to go to war with Spain? No. The United States is going to cut off trade with Spain? No. This is a bully. But Europe is incapable of honesty right now. They're so traumatized by everything, by their own fears, by their own incapacities, that they can't speak honestly right now. And they've been so trained by the U.S. Never object to the U.S. Can you imagine Mark Rutte, the Secretary General of NATO, actually saying something that isn't just licking the boots of the U.S.? I can't. I've never heard it. By the way, interestingly, I was friendly with Jens Stoltenberg. I like him. He was finance minister of Norway, then prime minister, then secretary general of NATO. And I was very unhappy when he was secretary general because he was like Rutte. Every word, how fabulous the United States is, how wonderful, no truth at all about any background to the Ukraine war, nothing. Then he ended his term, and the next week, Phidias, he actually said something honest about how the war started and about NATO enlargement being so dangerous and so forth. The next week. So I spoke to a European head of state. I said, God, we didn't hear a word about that when he was Secretary General. And the person said to me, Jeff, when he was Secretary General, who was he working for? And I said, well, he's Secretary General of NATO. He said, yeah, no, who was he working for? I said, the United States. He said, yes. Now he's not working for the United States. Well, is van der Leyen working for the United States or for Europe? I don't know. Is Merz working for the United States or for Europe? I don't know. I don't know, because I don't see anything that is evidently European. So this is why we don't...
Can I ask a personal question about
Sure.
that whole experience? Because you are from the United States, and this was the other countries asking you to speak there, and how did you feel personally there in the whole, and with the emotions of the war and all this stuff? How was like you were going in bed the night and what you've been thinking and all this stuff?
I'm extraordinarily worried about what the United States does to the world. And that's what I've been saying for many, many years, that the United States is extremely dangerous. It is hyper-militarized. It has hegemonic aspirations that are delusional, that are absolutely leading us to endless wars, and that we're at the brink of nuclear war. So I've been saying that for many, 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 many years. I've also been saying how dangerous Israel is. And so this is not something new for me. This is just an ongoing grim sense that I have that we are just moving relentlessly to World War III without grown-up voices in Europe saying, hey, slow down, buddy. Don't say you're going to pick the new supreme leader of Iran. Don't say unconditional surrender. Slow down, man, because this isn't going to take us anywhere safe. But that's what I'm missing. by the way, just to bring that day to that sad day to a conclusion, the U.S., I'll put it aside because it's just, in my opinion, thuggish in its view of everything. Israel spoke also, the perpetrator of this war, the one that's going to bring down the world economy. And it had, the ambassador had two points to make. One, he quoted from the Jewish Bible, the book of Esther, about some events in Persia 2,500 years ago, and how the Jews were threatened, and how you strike back preemptively and so forth. And this is part of the current reality, as if this is the immediate text and the immediate context. And the second thing the ambassador said was that he was recently at Auschwitz and the Holocaust, and that's never going to happen again, and so forth. And the truth is, those are the two ideas that motivate this extraordinary militaristic extremism in Israel. One is reading from some very violent books of the Bible, like the book of Joshua, which are roughly 2,500 years old, and some are I think, absolutely wrong, tragically mistaken ideas, or I don't know if ideas, but trauma that came out of the Holocaust, and the feeling that we will just kill first. We will just kill first. There are enemies everywhere. We will just kill first. And these are the two motivating factors. So I went up to the ambassador. I said, okay, you have those two things in your mind. Do you have any other things in your mind, like current reality, 2026? He was not very happy with that. I told him that I thought Israel was committing suicide in what it's doing. I can see it because Israel totally depends on the United States backing for its extreme militarism. And in the U.S., Israel's losing it. It used to be 5 years ago or 10 years ago that if you asked, what side are you on, Israel or Palestine? It would be 70% on the side of Israel, 15% on the side of Palestine, and the rest, no opinion. Today, it is, I may not have the exact numbers right, but if I remember correctly, it's 41% pro-Palestine, 36% pro-Israel. The swing has been amazing. And the swing among young people in the United States is just basically complete. They don't want to fight Israel's wars for regional hegemony. They're not into it. They know how completely destructive and terrible this is. And Israel, I don't think they get it. They hear Huckabee. They hear an American ambassador who is part of this Christian Zionist base. And they say, God, we're doing so great. Our friends in the U.S. love us. Look at Donald Trump and so forth. They don't understand that the American people are really sick of this. Sick of it. By the way, it's Jews, it's non-Jews. We're sick of it. No one asks us our opinion, but the political class owned and operated by this lobby. But the American people, we're sick of it. We don't want more wars of choice like this one, especially wars of choice led by two megalomaniacs who are psychologically unstable and leading countries that have delusional aspirations of grandeur.
So how you think this will unfold with Iran? Who you think will be the winner? How you think the battlefield, the data in the battleground, how do you assess the situation and how this will end? And who is winning and who is losing? And also the response of the other countries in the Gulf on this. Assess the situation if you can for us.
This is obviously my weakest point because I'm not a military analyst. I'm not privy to intelligence, and I never want to be, by the way. I don't want anyone to show me any secret information ever, period. I want to use whatever reason I can. I want to listen, look to the evidence. So now I'm just on speculative grounds listening to what military analysts are saying. This is not original Mr. Sachs analysis. It's just trying to think through the dozens of occasions that I've seen America go off to some escapade like this. So when I was young, Vietnam was the thing. And we had General Westmoreland who told us that victory is just around the corner. And then eventually Daniel Ellsberg released the Pentagon Papers, and we found out, to use a technical term, it was all bullshit top to bottom. And the American people had been had all along. Lyndon Johnson and Westmoreland and others knew everything was going terribly, but they were telling us the opposite. Now, I've gone through that now my whole professional life, my whole adult life, let me put it that way. How many wars, Iraq, Libya, Nicaragua, you name it. I've seen coups close up, CIA-led coups. I've seen a lot. By accident, I'm an economist. I'm not in this military intelligence gig, but you see a lot over the course of 45 years. My basic conclusion, Phidias, is it almost never works. Almost never. Almost never. Why? Because actually, Iran doesn't want to be led by the United States. It really doesn't. Russia doesn't want to be a vassal state to the United States. Russia really doesn't want NATO in Ukraine or Georgia. It doesn't work. And so from Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, Nicaragua, Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, it doesn't work. So that's my starting point. It's what we call a Bayesian prior, that I don't believe these guys because they never are right, by my experience, or almost never right. Now, what about the specifics? The specifics seem to be that you can make a hell of a lot of cheap drones, and you can't make $2 to $4 million THAADs and Patriot missile defenses. So it seems to be the case that the United States will run out of the anti-missile defenses sooner than Iran will run out of the means to attack. And Iran also has, according to the experts and according to what we saw last summer, it has hypersonic missiles that are very powerful, that can penetrate Israel's so-called Iron Dome and other layered air defenses. It's pretty clear the Gulf region does not have air defenses almost at all. And so shutting down the Straits of Hormuz is effectively done. Trump says that the U.S. Navy is going to escort these tankers through the Straits of Hormuz. I haven't heard one independent expert that believes remotely that this is anything other than mad Emperor Donald spouting off ignorantly as usual. So my guess is that either the shooting stops and Trump declares a delusional victory and can live within his own imagination that he's achieved the greatest victory in the history of the world since the creation of Earth, and that will be fine and he'll announce it. The war could end that way because he's perfectly delusional, so perfectly capable of declaring victory at any moment. Or the war goes on And if the war goes on, it does not go well. But what clearly, I think everybody tries as best as possible to understand what the hell just happened last week. It seems that Trump was told, probably by Netanyahu and Mossad and the CIA, look, all we have to do is kill all these leaders, and then the Iranian people are going to rise up and protest, and that's going to be the end of it, and you're going to declare victory, and it's going to be like Venezuela, blah, 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 blah. And that didn't happen. And it doesn't look like it's going to happen. So if this goes on, then I think what we're going to have is an economic calamity and a spreading war. And I think that that is the likelihood. Iran's not alone. It's going to get help definitely from China. It's going to get help from Russia. By the way, nothing...
Do you think China and Russia is helping now under the table Iran?
God, I would be almost certain that it is, because the war is directed against China, by the way. Not even in a subtle way. Iran is China's main oil supplier.
So do you think this is the underlying of why the war happened? Because United States trying to hurt China?
Yes, I think it's one of the two reasons. It really is the dual idea of Israeli hegemony and American hegemony, but they're not really different or contradictory. This has been a partnership for decades, not a smart one in my view, not a healthy one, but a partnership. And so it's not, is it the U.S. versus China, or is it Israel versus Iran? It's both of them. And the people that are involved that guide this, which are the Mossad and the CIA, they don't see it as trade-offs or who's really the motivator. They see it as the same project, basically.
What does this will mean for China?
I think China's approach in general is avoid war and build the most powerful economy in the world. And I think it's working for China, and China will continue to do this. China hasn't been in a war for 47 years now, since 1979. That war was 1 month. It was a kind of slap on the wrist of Vietnam for having overthrown an ally in Cambodia. It was a 1 month war from mid-January to mid-February 1979. Other than that, China stays clear of war. I don't think China is going to go into this in a direct military sense, but I'd be frankly shocked if China weren't providing all sorts of components for Iran to build its weaponry, all sorts of intelligence operations, finance, and so forth. China has not only geopolitical stakes, it's got absolutely direct stakes. It doesn't want all the world's oil supply to fall into American hands with an American administration that is out to harm China. So what will China do? I think it will support Iran, and at the same time, it will stay out of the shooting and continue to develop its industry, as the 15th plan just unveiled shows. In the meantime, the United States has no industrial plans, no strategy, no nothing. The only strategy the United States has right now is war. And the data centers of the U.S. in the Gulf are being blown up one after another right now. Amazon apparently just hit. None of this is necessarily true. This is just what we're hearing in the media. But the U.S. has no industrial strategy. I thought, Phidias, by the way, one of the most interesting geopolitical events of many, many years was Mertz's visit to China last week. And not just the visit to China, but the particular clip of Mertz watching the robots at the Unitree factory. And the reason that I found that so amazing is truly no Western companies can do what China's doing right now. They can't. There's not a company in Germany that has anything like what China is doing. So I was just watching Mertz, watching this robot demonstration and thinking that what must be going on in his head is, holy shit, this is the world. Look what I'm looking at. What are we going to do? Of course, Europe has no coherent answer. Donald Trump has the opposite of an answer. Donald Trump is destroying our economies faster than anybody. I saw a nice quip in some, I think, comment section that said Trump will launch the ultimate weapon against Iran. He will become Iran's president, and that will be the ultimate destruction of Iran. And so,
can I, as I understand, I will tell you very briefly what I understand geopolitic-wise with China. So this maybe slows down a bit China, what United States did in Iran, but it will also slow down a lot, and politically, the United States. So this will hurt also the United States a lot because it will lose its trust. We see what happened with Spain, and a lot of other countries are starting to realize now that the United States is not a safe ally. Maybe Europe will understand this at one point as well. So this will slow this reaction of the world will also slow down the United States, and probably China will be less slowed down, and it will be an opportunity to rise up with by herself to cut that much dependence on the Gulf. So I want you to tell me what are your thoughts about this.
I think that's exactly right. The New York Times, which is not my favorite paper, it's the paper I've read for 60 years, but it's not my favorite paper because it kind of parrots the officialdom in an incredibly naive, maybe not naive, maybe just that's their job, I don't know, but it parrots the officialdom. Has a story yesterday or today that says, Putin and Xi on the back foot because of Trump, that Trump is really weakening them. Because Trump uses force, and it's proving that China and Russia don't respond. This is the American comeuppance, especially to China. China's a paper tiger, blah, blah, blah. This is so incredibly naive. What the reality is that the U.S. has been at war nonstop for decades, and China has overtaken the United States economy. That's the basic story. China is far and away the leading industrial economy of the world. That's true just on almost any measure. If you look at the GDP measure, it's a little more complicated because you need to use so-called purchasing power prices to understand that if you compare China and the U.S. with the same price index, same pricing by sector, then China's about 30% larger right now in aggregate size. But in industrial capacity, China's running ahead. And the idea that that the U.S. is getting something big out of this is absurd. What the U.S. is doing is it's fought its wars to mass debt, where the debt to GDP ratio is well over 100. Well, it's about 100% by one measure. It's over 100% by another measure, and it's rising. And Trump is now facing another flood of red ink from this. $1 billion a day or more being spent on this war, and the cost will add up. The energy crisis, which will also hit the United States, though not as hard as Europe. The latest data, which I frankly have not had time to analyze carefully, but the job report that came out yesterday on Friday showed that the U.S. lost jobs in February. And this is very dramatic because basically in recent months, there is no job creation in the United States. So the U.S. economy is already very, very weak. And the implication for all of this is that if people think that this somehow strengthens the U.S., no, it does not strengthen the U.S. It's a massive, massive distraction. If you want to understand economics, economics is the long game. Economics is you invest, you build infrastructure, you have plans, you innovate, you build capacity, you train, and China's playing the long game. And it continues to play the long game, and the long game is working. And Trump is playing the minute-to-the-minute game right now. I mean, literally, his own aides don't know what's going to come out in the next moment.
So short-term victories, but long-term loss.
Absolutely. And we don't even know if short-term victories. We don't know, because that's propaganda. We don't really know what's happening. Israel has a blackout basically on reporting from Israel, except when you see a few clips on social media. So we don't know what's happening. We don't really know comprehensively what's happening in the Gulf, but I can tell you one good indicator to let us know is watch the oil and the gas prices. If they come down, it probably means that the supplies are flowing. And if they continue to rise, and right now Brent crude reached about $93 or $94, I'd be surprised if it doesn't reach above $100 in the coming days. But that's an indicator, because that kind of sums up the people whose money depends on it, and the physical flows, and it's not the propaganda side. It's the actual real story coming from the economy.
So you don't think President Trump deserves the Nobel Peace Prize?
I think that the Nobel War Prize, he could definitely have a close race. I don't know whether Netanyahu would get it in the first year or Trump would get it in the first year, but somehow I do think we should reserve the war prize for the two of them. Maybe a war crimes prize, I don't know. We could think about a very innovative prize for them.
Okay, we need to talk about my country, Cyprus.
Yes, it was hit.
Yes, can you explain us how we were hit? And we have British military bases here, and they are used to for the war right now. So yeah, I want you to assess the situation and like Cyprus, why the hell we are inside this, and we are European Union soil, which is adding something to the picture.
Yeah. Why does Cyprus have British military bases? Well, that is what we would call an anachronism. In other words, something that is utterly, completely unnecessary and worse for Cyprus. It's just harmful. The bases should close, and Britain finally, after about 500 years, should go back to its wonderful island and live within its own island. Britain went out and beat the shit out of much of the world for hundreds of years, and it's time to go home. And that would be a good thing, and good for Cyprus. And similarly, it turned out I warned them, and I told them, and I will tell them again, and I will tell Ukraine again and others, having the U.S. military on your soil, same way, not a good deal. No protection, just vassalage. So if you are hosting a U.S. military, you become a vassal. And I just have to emphasize, the United States doesn't care. It doesn't even care about Americans, much less care about Ukrainians or Cypriots or Bahrainis or Saudis, or it doesn't even, I mean, most Americans don't even know where these places are to begin with. But the purpose of these bases is U.S. hegemony, not protection of the host countries. And I think what the countries in the Gulf learned this past week is it's no protection at all. It's just a magnet for other people's bombs. And I like to remind everyone.
You are against this philosophy that everyone is saying that is a double-edged sword, that in a way it's good to have military bases because the people will be afraid to attack you. And so you are saying it's only harmful.
Of course it's only harmful. There should be no overseas military bases in the world, period. You don't need them. It's not protection. It's a form of U.S. control over countries that host the U.S. bases. It's an expansion or extension of U.S. power projection. It's not for local protection. And people should really remember the very correct adage of Henry Kissinger that I quote very often, that to be an enemy of the United States is dangerous, but to be a friend is fatal. And this is the point. The Gulf countries, they want to duck under the U.S. protection. What kind of protection is this? Do they want Israeli hegemonic rule over the Gulf? I don't think so, but that's what they're getting. And that is not protection in political sense, or a physical sense. They're getting bombed, and I like the Emirates and Dubai and have visited, and it's remarkable what they have accomplished. But it depends on peace. And the United States does not bring peace. And Israel certainly doesn't bring peace. And the Emirates signed up to this Abraham Accord, which is a phony, dangerous accord. Why is the Abraham Accord phony and dangerous? Because the idea was to paper over the fact that there are no Palestinian rights, that there's no Palestinian state, that there's no solution to greater Israel's hegemonic aspirations. And the Arab countries should say, look, there needs to be a state of Palestine. And then, if there is, we will recognize and deal with Israel that lives within its borders of the 4th of June, 1967. But the Emirates did something different. The Emirates said, we recognize Israel. Israel's our partner. We don't wait for a state of Palestine. And what's the implication? The implication is that these minutes, because I'm seeing it on the phone right now in the news feed, the UAE is being hit by Iran. Well, they should have understood, why do it this way? Why not stand up for a real peace, and then you won't have the bombs falling on your head?
So I will, as a Cypriot and a member of the Parliament, of the European Parliament from Cyprus, it's very hard to kick out the UK military bases.
Just tell them to leave.
If we tell them, you think they will leave?
Yeah, they have to. Come on. The Cypriot government and parliament should tell Britain, goodbye. We don't need you. We don't want you. Go home. It's no good. You're creating trouble for us. And you got us bombed, and we don't like that. We're a beautiful tourist island and industrial island and smart people, and we've got universities and culture. We don't want to be bombed. So go home. You're
and
not helping us.
And we don't want also to participate in this war.
Of course not.
Our island to be used to participate to this war.
Yeah, rather say, Emperor Donald, this doesn't make sense. You don't get to pick the next leader of Iran. You're not the supreme leader of the world. You don't get to assassinate who you want to assassinate. You don't get to launch wars in the middle of negotiations. You don't get to do that. That's what friends should tell friends. It's like, don't drive while under the influence. Well, don't bomb under the influence of delusions. That's what friends should tell friends. You're not helping yourself and you're not helping us.
So you think it's possible to kick out the UK military bases? You're not joking. It is not an ideal scenario here.
I'll come and help if I can.
When you came to Cyprus, you said that the UK is the mother of all bad in the world.
Yeah, but by the way, so interesting. You know, I have said many times in the last year that the British are the source of all the world's problems. And it's not a jocular point, because every place I go, if you look at the underlying cause of the crisis, it goes back to the British Empire. But what's very interesting, Phidias, is that I've gotten a number of pleasant but rather annoyed emails from Britain, but not from England, but from Wales and Scotland. And I just got one from Scotland yesterday. The one from Wales a couple of weeks ago, Mr. Sachs, why do you say British? We in Wales have never done anything. Could you say that all the problems in the world go back to the English? And I got a similar email a couple of days ago from Scotland saying, we're nice people. You know, we're good people. We're Scottish humanists. Could you say English? And so I'm going to be much more careful that the problems of the world all go back to the English and leave the Welsh and the Scots out of this.
Okay, so you see how big influence you have in the world. Countries want to correct you because you are hurting them.
But can I give you an example, Phidias, just as a digression? You look at almost any crisis. Certainly, the Middle East was wrecked by the British, top to bottom, by every lie that they told. But I'm, traveling a lot to India and China, and I really like both countries, great civilizations. I want them not to be antagonistic to each other, but they have an antagonism because of a border dispute. So this is exactly the point. Where does that border dispute come from? It comes from the English. Exactly. And it comes from a line that the English drew in 1914, an arbitrary line in the Himalayas. And the history of it is so English, it's amazing, which is, it's British because it was the British Empire, but I'm going to say that it's English. So in 1906, and 1907, the British agreed with the Chinese that Tibet was under the suzerainty, that is, under the foreign policy authority of the Qing dynasty. That went back 3 centuries. And they agreed in a treaty that any issues about the border with Tibet would be handled between the British Raj and the British Empire and Beijing and Peking. That this would be a matter of Britain and China, because there was a recognition that Tibet was under the Manchu rule, part of, in foreign policy terms, under Chinese authority. So that was 1907. Then in 2012 came the Chinese Revolution, and Britain never sticks by an agreement. like the United States, never sticks by an agreement. That's the prerogative of being the wannabe world hegemon. So Britain starts negotiating with the Tibetans independently, because China's, in the upheaval of its nationalist revolution. So there's a meeting that takes place in 1914, and it was supposedly the British and the Chinese with the Tibetan participants there. And a British guy named McMahon drew a line in the Himalayas, by the way, a line that favored the British Empire naturally, so it pushed the border of India, British India, way north. And the Chinese said no. And the Tibetans said, okay, we'll sign separately with you. And the Chinese said, wait a minute, we just have this treaty just 6 years ago that this is a bilateral relationship. Well, the British, like they always do, just signed with Tibet. And China rejected that agreement, saying that's invalid. That's Simla agreement. And that's called the McMahon Line. And then, interestingly, when India gained its independence in 1947, Nehru, who was a wonderful person, just adopted the McMahon Line. Said, okay, we'll take the British Imperial Line. And the Chinese said, no, you have to negotiate with us. And the Indians till today have said, no, we take the British line. It's an exact case that all problems go back to the English, because there's nothing honest about the sequence of events. I want China and India just sit down and settle this thing honestly, understand the history, go back, don't let Britain get in between you two. But isn't this like every place? Isn't this like Palestine? Isn't this like Cyprus today? Isn't this like Iraq? Wherever the British stood, they acted, let's say, not exactly with principle, but in the most opportunistic possible ways, and they just left a trail of unsolved problems everywhere. And the Americans do it even worse now.
Because you mentioned Cyprus and the conflict that we have now in Cyprus, that we are occupied by Turkey, what do you think is the role of Turkey in this with Iran? Do you think Turkey is happy? Probably not with what is happening.
Of course, this is another reason why the war could just expand and things could become terribly complicated. What we're hearing in the last 48 hours is the United States is trying to arm the Kurds to invade Iran. Gee, that seems like a great idea. That's going to make Ankara very happy too. That's going to simplify matters. In other words, that's going to expand the war, possibly disastrously. And this is, can somebody just stop the bullshit? Don't get the Kurds into this. Don't bring Turkey in as another belligerent in all of this. Stop the spread of the madness. Don't get the Kurds to invade Iran right now. This is so typical CIA, by the way. The way the CIA works, it's the ultimate is you want to divide any country. You want to play on any fissure possible of ethnic groups. You want to get footholds in. You want to make sure that you divide any society. So this is a typical playbook. Believe me, Trump didn't think of it, but they told him to make the call. But this is going to just make this truly not even a Middle Eastern war by itself. This is now West Asia, North Africa, Horn of Africa, and could well expand beyond that.
So Turkey will stay as it is probably and don't get involved in this as...
I think what Turkey would really like...
But Israel wants to drag Turkey into this.
Of course. Of course. Israel wants to drag everyone into war, and it wants the United States to do the full Donald, which is, we'll stop at nothing to ensure global hegemony and Israeli regional hegemony. It's the madness that gets us into World War III if we go in this direction. And of course, Israel, honestly, is so dangerous, so rogue, that it just needs to be stopped. The whole world, the U.S. won't do it, but the whole rest of the world needs to tell Israel very clearly, simply, very clearly, your borders are real, and they are the 4th of June, 1967. They are not your reading of Genesis 15. Okay? Got it? Then the world can actually be safe. This is the basic point. Of course, Israel wants to drag everyone into this because it thinks the U.S. in the end will do whatever it takes, quote unquote, to make this work. But these are the delusions of megalomaniacs.
So what do you think about the response that we saw from European countries? Greece sent us some ships and planes. Germany, France sent us. I think Italy sent us here in the area to protect Cyprus. What do you think this says? Is this, can we call it a good European response to protect the people of Cyprus as Europe? Or you think that there is something more going on, that they want to use Cyprus to get into the war? What do you think?
Clearly a number of them are itching to get into the war and to show that they can participate. The only European country that has done it right is Spain. Spain has said, stop the fighting. This war makes no sense. It's dangerous. It's illegal. It's not in our interest. This is the basic point. And this is worth 100 times more, 1,000 times more than sending any ships and troops and all the rest. Donald Trump is a bully. The bully depends on everyone cowering and backing off, or worse, joining in the melee. And this is why what Pedro Sanchez did is so intelligent and smart, and we're waiting to see whether there's another European leader that's so clever.
So basically you are saying that they don't want to protect Cyprus, maybe, and they want to get involved in this, the other European countries.
I hope they want to protect Cyprus, but Europe is under threat from the United States and Israel. Israel is going to kill the European economy this year. It's going to kill the world economy, the way things are going right now. Europe's under threat. Europe should get out from under the threat, not by increasing the scrum and the violence, but by stopping it. Europe can stop it together with the rest of the world. If the rest of the world tells Donald, you got to stop, you can't use our bases, we're not supporting this, this makes no sense, this is dangerous, this is illegal, this is rogue behavior, you're not going to choose the next supreme leader, just a few basic truths. This actually would end the fighting.
Okay, so you are not sure about Cyprus, if it's to protect or to...
I have no idea specifically, because I'm not close enough to know, but what I am telling you is...
In theory, what your first instinct, that all these ships that are sending is just caring about the Cypriot people, or is this something underlying going? So
look, as a general matter, anytime ships come close to war zones, they're being prepositioned. I don't know whether that's true here or not. Honestly, no one's calling me to tell me, and I haven't followed it. But generally, as military equipment comes closer to war zones, it's usually to be used.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go back to Ukraine for a couple of minutes.
Sure.
So what is happening now? Is this good for Russia? Is this good for Ukraine? What is happening? Because it takes the focus elsewhere.
Of course.
Who is benefiting for this? And like, can you explain us what it means for this war, this focus?
Well, without question, Russia is the double beneficiary of this. One is oil prices are soaring, and so this is economically beneficial for Russia. And second, whatever remaining anti-missile defenses there are going to Israel. They're not going to Ukraine. They're not even being purchased by Europe for the sake of Ukraine. It's just stopped. So Ukraine is already in a desperate situation, but this tremendously exacerbates Ukraine's troubles. If anyone thinks that Ukraine
and that's why we see the recent behavior from Zelensky, you think?
Well, Zelensky's behavior is not something that I find rational to begin with, and not something that I find attractive at all, because he flails around to keep the war going. He makes accusations about anybody that doesn't want to continue the war. If he were really leading for the sake of the Ukraine people, he would return to the negotiating table that he left in April 2022 that would have ended the war with 1 million or 2 million casualties less. He made a terrible mistake because he failed to understand the Kissinger adage that I quoted. He went with the U.S. advice and is losing a lot of his country as a result of this. So whatever Zelensky's doing with his attacks on Europe and so forth, he's a desperate man. But there's a way out of the desperation, and that's actually to have peace. And whatever is happening now is adding to Ukraine's disaster, no question about it.
And it's not a good solution for them, but is the best that they can have.
Yeah, I mean, at every step of the way, Ukraine could have done better by agreeing to peace. Every time it waits, it loses more. I've been saying this for 10 years. I've been saying it for 5 years. I've been saying it for 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, 1 year. Today, the longer you go, the more you lose. That's just how it is.
Okay, and now with the geopolitics in Europe, we are going to be forced to buy gas from Russia? Or you don't think this will happen?
Europe, probably van der Leyen and Merz will say, we don't really need energy. We're tough. We're going to shut down the economy for a few years, but this is in the interest of Europe. That's what I guess will happen.
I think so as well. This will happen. It's crazy. And sometimes I'm embarrassed that I'm inside the House of the European Parliament that has the majority that agrees with this view.
Yes. It's the House of Mirrors. Everything's upside down. Losing is winning, and the 47th sanctions package will be when there's no more industry, no more work, no more economy. Europe will be on to its 47th sanctions package.
So I want the last question. So how do you feel that every time we make a video together, I'm sure that you are viral in other ways, but you are getting millions of views. Like the previous one got 25 million, the previous one 100 million. The thing that we did in the European Parliament 300 million. How do you feel that this power that you have in a way, and that people listen to you because you shape in a way the public opinion? Do you take this seriously? Do you want to just do your job and explain? Like, how do you think about this influence? And like you saw it with the UN and all this stuff, how do you feel about the impact that you have in the world?
Phidias, it's not impact. I'm sitting there cut out from speaking and watching the craziness go on. and we're closer than ever to World War III. So, or maybe in it, I don't know. But it's not influence. It is it's some pain, and this is not happy at all. And honestly, Phidias, I mean, I love speaking with you, in part because I know that Europe can do so much better. Honest to God, I love Europe. I really do. I can't believe what Europe has reduced itself to in political terms. I'm just shocked by it, because I've been around a bit and I've known lots of European leaders, and I've known lots of European leaders, and I've just never seen this situation that I've seen. I knew Jacques Delors, I knew Romano Prodi, I knew real leaders in Brussels. I knew, and I've known, and I still know many great leaders in Europe. And while I'm thrilled with Pedro Sanchez and want to give a shout out to him, I'm so dismayed by the rest right now. The silence, the complicity, the confusion, the self-harm of Europe. That's what I really want to be different, so that when we talk next, we're praising the wonderful wisdom, not the kind of bemoaning and that we've been doing as